Isolating is a deadly sin in the business because it leads to people hiding out and avoiding others. It's one of the most challenging and crippling outcomes that I see in the business. In some cases, people, after some sort of event happens or some sort of challenges experienced in the business, they will go away and are nearly impossible to find. In that case, problems fester, issues go unresolved, and people sometimes end up in what seems like a depression. Isolating looks like not showing up to meetings, withdrawing from relationships, and sometimes getting very cynical about the business. It happens to nearly everybody, so it's not necessarily a sign, if you're seeing it, that the career is over, there's some sort of calamitous event happening. However, it is critical to address this early because perspective can easily get lost when people stop showing up to the meetings or to events in the organization. It's a sign that trouble is on the horizon. Isolating is essentially caused by a fear of facing disappointment. In a sales career, what I've experienced from working with hundreds of sales producers is that high energy and enthusiasm are absolutely critical to the process. And I totally agree with those beliefs. Sales is part of being contagious in terms of your optimism and enthusiasm. So I think it's therefore very natural for people who are in a sales career to not want to face disappointment, not want to be disappointing to others, and not want to experience others when they are disappointing. So in a course of having a sales career, there are going to be disappointments that are faced, and very often the fuel from facing those disappointments are exactly what's needed to move to the next level and experience a breakthrough. However, not wanting to face that is a natural part of being in sales, so it creates a real dilemma and a challenge. How to have a career where you are optimistic and enthusiastic about what's going or what the future is going to look like, and how to rub off on other people in a positive way, while at the same time recognizing that disappointment is a critical aspect of the career, and that facing that provides you the fuel for making critical and necessary changes for the future. Many producers will feel in the moment that there's a disappointment coming and I do not want to face it. I would rather hide out and avoid this experience rather than show up. In client builder meetings, very often people are going to show up and have to face very disappointing results. They haven't met a goal that's important to them, or they feel let down by others in the group, or even the entire process itself. Well, what's critical to do in that process is choose engagement, is to do the opposite of what a person feels on a very intuitive or gut level. Sometimes that intuition won't serve us well. In these cases, showing up, facing that, overcoming the challenge, working through it, especially in a group context with a client builder, is exactly what a person needs. There are times when facing disappointments, both in oneself and in others, is absolutely important to go to the next level. And in a client builder group, one of the most powerful contributions that process can offer is allowing people the group for doing that and the forum for working through those issues. Just as achievements are critical to the career, so are the disappointments. I know many people who have claimed that they have grown far more by failing and learning from those failures than they have from the successes. If you avoid the disappointment then that come from those letdowns, you're very often going to miss the opportunities for big-time growth. Stagnating is one of the deadly sins in the sales career. It essentially is about falling behind the times, not keeping current, and occasionally becoming irrelevant. This is something that happens not only in aging veterans in the business, though it's more common in that group, but among people who are even newer to the process. It can very often look like working harder for fewer results, avoiding new technologies, and simply not being aware of what's going on around you. Stagnating in a sales career is primarily caused by a loss of purpose. There are multiple dimensions of the business. Some are external, which is how things are done, the stuff of the business, the scripts, the technologies, etc. And there is an internal aspect to the business, which is why I'm here, what the purpose is that I'm trying to accomplish, and how this connects to me. When a person loses that sense of purpose, that's when stagnation occurs in a very powerful way. And I did mention that very often people do this as a result of being in the career for a while, and some of what initially was a very powerful sense of purpose has been lost. And when that purpose is lost, it's very easy for a person to get into a very complacent position. That complacency will lead to stagnation. In order to make these leaps of faith, right, to get through the difficult, sometimes terrifying moments in the career, one must have a clarity of purpose and a sense of individual effort that's going to lead to something better. It's absolutely necessary in this career to be purposeful and internally driven to get through these challenging times. When one does not have that sense of purpose that is clear, it's very, very natural to stagnate and lose momentum. The solution to stagnating is to discover or rediscover a purpose. Many people find themselves on automatic pilot in the career. They're simply cruising, going about things the same way they have for years, and not very deeply engaged in the business. So one of the greatest things the person can do is switch off that automatic pilot button, take control of the ship and move forward in a very deliberate way. That very often requires a multi-stage process that needs to take place. The first is to get out of the routine. So what a person can do to rediscover that purpose is break the routine. If you've been doing the same thing for the last 5 years, it's important to change that, to simply get off automatic pilot and get more engaged in the business. So stop doing what you've always been doing, look at things a new way, and then very deliberately take time to reflect. It doesn't even need to be very much time. It could be maybe 2 hours a week, but stop, potentially journal, and think about where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go moving forward. A final aspect of this is to identify a challenge out there, something to run towards that's going to channel energy in a positive direction. This can engage you in a very powerful process of pursuing something of great importance.